Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Ad Astra Kansas Money Talks podcast. I'm Joe Blumenaught and I'm joined by Mark Johnson and Bob Schwartz of Bob Schwartz Financial, and you can find out more about them. They have offices in Victoria, Kansas and Silver Lake, Kansas, and online at bobschwartzfinancials.com. And if you are watching us on YouTube, listening to us on your favorite podcast, give us a like, subscribe, do all the things. We really appreciate it. And today we're going to be talking about the power of compound interest.
Yep.
It's such an important and critical part of investing for your future and taking advantage of it. Before we get into it, there's a very famous quote out there. I actually brought it up so I could read it correctly. But Albert Einstein, known for all his science and all the things that he did leading up into World War II. But one quote that he talked about, he said, "Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it." And what a great quote, because we've talked about in previous episodes how compound interest can work against you. Today we're going to talk about how it can work for you. So, Mark, maybe start us off by talking about the power of compound interest and really what it means.
Yeah, the simplest way to put if I was going to teach some little high school kids about it, which I'm going to here in a couple weeks, but it's growth on growth. That's the easiest way to explain it to people. But really, the simple math, if you put if you invested $10,000 at 8% for 30 years, and it becomes $100,000 of that growth is coming from compounding, not from the original investment. That compound interest, like Joe says, feels like magic, but really it's patience and time and letting it work. And what we don't want to do is interrupt the compounding process.
And before we get into some scenarios, Bob, one of the things that really moved the needle for me when I started to understand compound interest is when you're first starting out investing, maybe you invest $10,000 a year, most of your growth is coming from your contribution early.
Correct.
That $10,000, I put 100% of that $10,000 in. So, that's 100% based on my contribution. The next year, if I got, 10% interest in that $10,000, now I put $10,000 in, but my original $10,000 made me $1,000, simple math here. So now I'm still doing the lion's share of the work, but compound interest is starting to contribute as well.
Yep.
By the time you get 30 years into the future, if I put $10,000 in, that's dwarfed by...
It's a small portion.
Correct. And it's just every year you get more and more power of your investments making money for you. And that is the power of compound interest.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's just so many, there's just so many cases I can cite about what that power is. And when interest rates are at 0% or 2% or 3%, and interest rates are falling right now, we're doing this in the fall of 2025. Looks like interest rates are going to go down, but there's one place where compounding really affects, and that is U.S. equity, companies that pay dividends. And if a company raises its dividend, and if you can have a portfolio where the dividends go up 7 to 9% a year, not the growth of the money, but the growth of the dividend, in just a few years, and when I say a few years, I don't mean two, but you'll start seeing it happen in 7 years. You'll start seeing, wow, this is really grabbing a hold. And I have spent a lifetime of that type of investing. And when I look at the dividends that I'm paid, it absolutely amazes me. I mean, Mark and I will talk about it. Mark, I can't believe it's the number it's at, just simply from the power of letting your money work for you.
Yeah, and we're going to, lots of stories I know that you have, and I'm sure you'll pitch some in as we go along. We're going to look at a couple of scenarios as we kind of go through this episode. These are generic scenarios, and we'll dive right into scenario A. Maybe tell us a little bit about what we got going on here.
Yeah, so we're just going to look at two scenarios. One of a consistent saver that lets compounding work for them, and then one of someone who is prone to interruptions. They take out of their accounts to do little projects, things like that, and they don't have other separate funds. They don't have separate accounts, emergency accounts, so they're paying it out of their investment account. But first, the scenario one, the consistent saver, they invest $500 a month for 35 years, from age 30 to 65. And they get about 8% return, great return over time. By 65, they have over a $1.5 million, the power of compound interest. They never touch the money. They let compounding do its job. But most of that money, if we were looking at a chart, which I could pull up here for you right now, but if you looked at a chart, their wealth really explodes from about 50 to 65. That's when that compounding is just hit total snowball. The snowball is turned into an avalanche, and you are really making money.
And you said that 1.5 is their portfolio at age 65.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea of the power of compound interest, if they contributed $500 a month for 30 years, that's $180,000. That means their $180,000 investment turned into $1.5 million.
Yep.
So that's the power of compound interest and being consistent.
And when you hear those numbers, you think of people that started when they're 22, whatever. This person started when they were 30 years old. And this wasn't someone that started super, super early. If you took that back to if you started doing $500 a month when you're 22, that number might be closer to what, 3 million?
3 to 4, I
Yeah,
would say.
$3 to $4 million. Yeah, almost double. So that can show you even how much starting early combined with compounding can really explode your net worth.
But I think it's also important to note, it's a good place to put in here that, let's say you're watching this podcast and you really haven't started investing and you're 35 or 40, there's still time, even at that age, 50. It's never too late to start.
No, yeah. I think that's the scariest thing. Well, just like with most things, it's the scariest to start. I've never done this before. My money's getting me that 0.12% in my savings account. It feels really safe. And they just don't want to take that next step. And, you're 36, 37 years old. You've never been a part of the market. You've never had a 401k. I'm sure it is kind of, scary to get things going. But you gotta, if you listen to these type of, listen to a podcast, read a book about compounding and investing, it is definitely worth taking the jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark and I meet with people getting ready to retire all the time. And when we're sitting with someone that goes, man, I can't believe what my money's done in the last 15 years, because they're 65 and that they've watched that grow. But then we sit down with some and they'll go, I don't have as much money as I should. Well, why is that? Well, because that darn market going down in 08. Oh, really? And what did you do in 08? Well, I got out.
Yeah.
I broke the chain. And it always reminds me, I'm a huge Stevie Nicks Fleetwood Mac fan. And I can still hear you saying you'll never break the chain. And we talk about that with our clients, not that exact, you'll never break the chain. But what will you do if we go through another one of those? And if a client says, well, I'm going to get out, then my comment would be well, we need to be in fixed rate all the way because the market will drop.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand that and you break the chain, then when's the right time to get back in? That's the other comment we make to clients is you tell us when it's time to get back in.
Yeah, because that's the thing about trying to time the market.
Yeah.
It's not time the market, it's timing the market, because you got to know when to get out and you got to know when to get back in, and both are just as critical.
Yeah.
And it's almost impossible to hit it once. I would say the odds of hitting it both are slim to none.
I think one of the things that explains the success of our practice is in 08 we had 3 clients capitulate the market. And of course, now I've kind of pivoted, and I'm sorry, we're talking about not breaking a chain, but those 3 clients that pivoted, all of them had to tell me when to get back in. And the market was higher when they got back in than it was the day they got out.
Yep.
For each one of them, because fear drives the market. And so what a good professional does is help drive that fear away, or help take that fear over for you, and let us worry about that part. But you don't want to break that chain.
And I think a great example is the dip during COVID. You know, there were a lot of people that probably after those first 3 or 4 days said, I'm out, you know, because the market just tanked but it was such a short blip that if you didn't get right back in within a couple of days, you
lost out.
You lost. Yeah.
I think one interesting thing, my mother and dad used to talk about the Great Depression. My mom was teaching school. My dad owned a gas station. And I mean, it was terrible for him. But that lasted almost till World War II started. Okay. And in 1972, we had a recession. It lasted several years. We had the whip inflation now buttons. Everybody remember those? And
Nope.
That lasted. No, none of you guys do. Well, some of these do. Those lasted several years. COVID, 2022 was a terrible market year, but it was over within the year. And I think the 2 things come in: the Fed and their reaction to, we didn't have that in 1929. Second thing is technology and the ability of the market to react quicker, otherwise shorten up. Like it shortens up. We can go look at our stocks real time. That's a blessing, and it's a curse.
Yeah, especially when you think about compounding and you think about people that, let's say, you do investing on your own and it's on your phone through whatever app you have, and you're not working with anybody, you're doing it yourself, and you're not necessarily, all you've seen is your money grow and then it tanks. Well, at your fingertips, you can get out of everything right then and there. You don't have to talk to anybody. It's all in your head.
Yeah.
And you can break that compound, what we just talked about. You can break that really, really easily. And so you have to have some good discipline, like, to understand, you have the power of investing in yourself. You're not with somebody. You have to have some discipline to stick into the market, to take advantage of the compound interest, to take advantage of the great market returns. Because if you keep trying to buy and sell and buy and sell and buy and sell, things are not going to work out for you.
You just brought up something, and I don't talk about this a lot, but I like to write music. And I wrote a song years ago called "Don't Believe Everything That You Think," and that comes. I've never thought of it. I wrote it about a whole other set of of thinking positive thoughts instead, because of how your brain is. But it's true in stock investing. Don't believe everything you think. Don't believe everything you read.
Yeah.
Because if there's 10 articles telling you that Apple's going down the drain, because that drives eyeballs. If somebody writes an article that says everything's great at Apple, well, who cares? We know that. Everybody knows Apple's great. Whatever company you want to name, because fear drives us, and fear will again, sometimes sitting there by yourself, going, "Oh God, I think this could be it." Here's another one. It's different this time.
Yep.
It's different this time. It's never different. It's always the market reacts to market conditions, what's going on in the world, but that's always been the same.
It's I have a little personal story here. So I self-invested for a long time, and there were 2 different times I was so certain the market was about to go down. I was 100% convinced. Both times I was like, I'm smarter than the market, I'm going to pull out. And I did. And I don't even want to think about how much I've lost doing that twice. So the good thing is, though, is that I kept self-investing for many years after that, but I promised myself that I would never do that again, and I didn't. So during COVID, I really wanted to,
You
but
did.
I didn't.
That's good.
And thank
That's
goodness
good.
I didn't. So breaking
it-
the chain,
It reminds me of a night I stayed up till 2 a.m., I thought, to do some trade stuff, and then watched the market do a total turn, and was up till 5 a.m. reversing everything, so that it didn't happen, because, no matter, you just, what's, there's a company up 14% today that's in our portfolio. Well, we're tickled pink it's up 14% today. But that's not why we bought that company, because we knew it was going to go up 14%. We bought that company because Mark did an excellent job of research, and Cole on our team did an excellent job of research, and we started buying that company, and it's been fantastic. But we bought it because of its fundamentals, not because, hey, one day they're going to have a good earnings report and go up 14%.
right.
Tomorrow it goes down 14. I mean, how that goes.
Well, we've talked about the consistent saver. Mark, let's talk about the interrupter.
Yeah, so this is that person that they're gonna go ahead and they're gonna invest $500 a month, just like the first person from 30 to 65. Same growth rate, but they take withdrawals at the wrong times. So at age 40, they withdraw $20,000 for a house upgrade, which again, all these things are very normal things, and we're not saying to not do these things. We are saying you need to be cognizant of which account you're doing them from or where you're pulling the money.
You need a
Just want to make
remodel
sure,
pile and-
we want to make sure we're aware of this.
My retirement money.
At age 50, they withdrew $30,000 for their kids' tuition. And again, we'll talk about, some other places you want to pull that from. Age 55, withdraw $25,000 for an emergency. So each withdrawal not only removes principal, but it also resets your compounding. So those dollars aren't growing any longer. So instead of retirement, instead of having $1.5 million, they're going to maybe be closer to 1.1, 1.2, which in the long run, it's like, okay, that's still, they did a good job of investing and saving, but they pretty much, they lost $400,000 or $500,000.
Right.
Yeah.
And, so based on this, they took out $75,000 worth of withdrawals that potentially cost them $300,000 to $500,000
of income.
Right. So,
Besides,
and the important thing of this is the other thing about compounding is when you do those withdrawals. So it could actually be a lot worse than 1.1 to 1.2 if they needed to take, let's say they do the remodel on the house, and right before they get ready to pull that money out, the market does a 10-15% correction.
Yep.
And they take it out then. And what's the term for that? I'm totally blanking on it.
Mistake.
Well,
yeah.
that is correct. But
A big ass mistake.
yes, it. But you can see too, and also when they buy back in, it could be if they took a loan against their 401k or a loan against their
It's called
IRA.
the sequence of withdrawals.
Sequence of returns. There you go. Yeah.
Sequence of returns, sequence of withdrawals.
Yeah. So if they were doing a loan version of this and they paid it back once the market had gone up considerably, there's just so many things that can go wrong there.
Yeah, and like I said, it's better to have separate funds. You should have an emergency fund where you keep, whatever that is, 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses to where you can pay for emergencies. Hopefully you have, a 529 or something for your kids' education where that's separate. That is a separate bucket. People talk about these buckets, having the bucket strategy of, a college fund, you have emergency fund, you have your investment accounts.
And you don't break the sequence.
Yep.
In
In
your
your
investment
investment,
account or your kids' 529s.
Yep.
You just, when my youngest son went to college was during the Great Recession. And he's a freshman in college, and his account's worth half of what it was worth just a year and a half before. But we didn't withdraw any money from it. We did it later on after the market had recovered, because college takes 4 years. And so there are ways to, but the money that you're going to use for a remodel, you're going to have a $100,000 remodel and you want to pay for it out of your pocket, let's get it saved up. or let's get it moved out of that investment account. But that's getting it out of that investment account's not smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to point out one other thing about how, I know this is how Mark invests, because Mark's basically a clone, but I still trade I trade at least once a week in my account. 99.5% of the time I'm buying. It's unusual for us to personally get rid of a company. Second of all, it's unusual for us to get rid of a company that's in our portfolio. It's not that we can't say, hey, we want to get out of this when we might have made a mistake, but it's unusual for us to get out.
As I've learned in my first couple of years of doing this, I've done like Bob's talking about, we do research and, we buy things for a reason. They're a good company, good fundamentals. They're doing things right. They have a good product, whatever that is. Every time that early on, especially like when I was learning how to invest like in my own Roth, when I was kind of doing it myself, every time I do research and buy when it was kind of like low and value investing and it didn't move for a while, and I'd get frustrated and sell it. I did that for a little bit my first year. I'd, give something a couple months and it would move. And then like a year later I would look back and I'm like, I'm an idiot. Like I did all of that research. And I gave it 2 months, and now I look it up, and it's up 30%, 40%, and you're like, well, you just have to be patient. Like, if you're willing to take the time, do research. If a company truly has good fundamentals, good things usually come, unless some bad sentiment or whatever. But
use Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
You've got to have patience with the stock, and let's use his favorite company that he ever bought, Coca-Cola. You buy it hoping that the underlying value of the stock goes up, but you take that 2.5% to 3% dividend each year that they've increased for 67 years in a row, and they're paying you to own their stock while you're waiting on it to go up, and of course that's basically what we do 100% of the time. American companies that pay dividends and have a history of increasing those.
So you guys had kind of talked about, you gave a personal example. What is the psychology? Why do people feel the need that they need to withdraw from their funds? You kind of mentioned impatience. Maybe that's it. Is there maybe just a lack of discipline?
Anytime there's a political change, doesn't matter which direction the wind's blowing, folks will call and say, do we need to get out? Most of the time when clients call us that they're calling us to pull money out, they're in retirement. And we just had one this morning, I think, when you came in, they'd been to Europe and they needed $5,000. They spent a little bit more than what they were planning on, so they pulled it out of his retirement plan. But we had the money sitting there, as we do, to make sure we've got the income that he needs. But some people buying a house while their children go to college. Some people are buying maybe a rental property and they're repositioning some money. There's a lot of reasons. The ones you don't want to hear is
so-and-so is going to take over as president, so therefore...
Well, yeah, I'm getting out.
It's so funny because when we first started doing this podcast, we talked about that, and you actually showed me a chart. And there, doesn't matter which side of the aisle the government is coming, who's in power, the stock market continues to grow. And if you took out money based on a personal
who's running the
right,
country, you're losing money.
Big time.
Yeah,
right. So it sounds like not only are you guys CFPs, but you're also psychologists.
oh yeah, that's kind of the job, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, it's, when this business is really tough is when we have a big market drop. We educate our clients. We are constantly sending out letters, or twice a year we send out a letter that starts out with, we are long-term dividend investors. It's in the first paragraph, it always starts out that way. But when everybody's all on board until see the market drop 10 or 15%, and then that's when we become no, we're not getting out. An example I like to use is I don't know what McDonald's is doing today. If it drops 15%, are they still going to sell the same hamburgers they would have sold today anyway? Yeah, they are. And Apple's going to sell the same number of phones or whatever it is Apple's selling today, and Google's going to have the same number of eyeballs. And you want to be in companies that have the ability to expand their growth and to pay us those, to not break our chain and to keep our income going up.
I think for me, the psychology that I think for especially younger investors or people that are just getting into the market, they've heard about people that, oh, I got into X and X company and I'm up 2,000% and it's made me all this money.
Yeah.
And so early on, especially in the first couple of years, you see people that are like, I'm chasing this home run that does not come. They just buy and sell and buy and sell and buy and sell. Like, why isn't this thing shooting through the roof?
Yeah.
You know, and it takes a little bit for people to understand, okay.
People look at it like gambling.
Yeah.
I want to make money right now.
And I think, you know, that with all the different investing apps and things like that, it's really easy for people. Literally, you can gamble on those apps, you know, for that's a thing. You can like pick, you know, games or people on those apps. In my mind, that's a little predatory. But the psychology is that's what some people think investing is.
Right.
Is they think that
It's gambling.
I'm gonna shoot to try to have this one company go a bajillion times over. It costs this much
I'm
money.
gonna put all my chips on
Yep.
that stock.
This random meme coin that I heard some
Yeah,
random
right.
guy on
Yeah.
YouTube talk about.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what's really, especially the younger generation right now, that if they're not informed, they don't have good financial education. Yeah, that's what they think it is.
I'm gonna throw
And
my
so,
grand.
yeah, so it takes some time to learn, like, okay, to truly participate in this compounding, you know, that we're talking about, you have to just be in the market. You have to be in solid companies, solid funds, whatever that is, to actually participate.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said it right there. As we kind of wrap this episode up, kind of the takeaways, consistency sounds like the big one.
Yeah.
It's just stay consistent, come up with a strategy. You guys are great resources. If somebody needs some help and want to come up with a strategy, best place to go, bobschwartzfinancial.com. All their contact information is there. Of course, if you're in Silver Lake, you can stop by. They're right on the Highway 24, and they've also got an office in Victoria. Please give us a thumbs up, a like, subscribe to our podcast. We'd love to get you to watch us every week. Gentlemen, have a great weekend. Bob, thank you very much. Mark, thank you very much.
Can I have 3 more minutes of your time?
Absolutely.
It's Football Friday.
It is Football Friday.
We need to pick some games. I think we ought to try that this week. So
Wow, you're going to put me on
I
the
got
spot
some games
here.
down. I don't know who the Victoria Knights play this week, but next week we will have the Victoria Knights on it. But we're going to go through and pick some games. Fort Hays doesn't play this weekend. Emporia State plays at Angelo State. I think
Emporia
that's in
State.
Texas. You're picking, so Mark's picking Emporia.
Having done no research, I'm making
Joe?
a guess.
I know, I
here.
have-
So I'm going to go Emporia as well. I got to go local.
MIAA is not my
Yeah, same
forte.
here. I'm going to pick Emporia also. Washburn at Northwest Missouri State.
Okay,
You
so
have to pick Washburn.
yeah, and I have a little bit of insight in here, although not much. My son is a Washburn student, and he says the football team's pretty good this year, so I'm going to go with Washburn.
Washburn. All right, I'm going to go, as a former Ichabod, I'm going to go with Washburn also. Pitt State at University of Central Oklahoma.
Pitt State, a big loss last week. They played the best team in the country, though.
Yeah.
They're coming back.
All right.
Yeah.
Go Gorillas.
Pittsburgh's always a pretty perennial powerhouse here, so let's go
Yeah, they
Pitt.
used to
Let's
be
go
at
Pitt.
least. All right, KU at Mizzou.
Ooh, got a Big 12 versus the SEC. Huge rivalry here, and
Yeah,
if
did
you're
you
not
hear
from
their crowd last week, that was bad.
Yeah.
It's not good.
I'm a KU fan, so I gotta go with KU.
Joe's KU.
Yeah.
Mark's not a big KU fan.
No.
Yeah, I went to K-State. I will say there's only one team I dislike more than KU, and I think that's Missouri. But in the football aspect of things, Missouri has a really good defense this year. I think
Yeah.
they're a little scary. I'm going to go with
Yeah.
Mizzou.
I'm going to go with KU, not because I think that the coach over there is a little clone of Bill Snyder, and I think he's got him going in the right direction. Not last. KU's playing Army, and they're not playing the
K-State.
U.S.
K-State.
Army.
K-State.
K-State is playing Army. They're not playing the U.S. Army. They're playing the Academy.
Yeah.
And they got beat last week by some school I never heard of.
Tarleton
Yeah.
State.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Charlton?
Tarleton.
Tarleton.
Yeah, they're a FCS school.
Yeah. So who are you picking, K-State?
I'm in K-State.
Well, and K-State almost got upset last week. I think it was a wake-up call, so I'm going to have to go with K-State as well.
I think the travel from Ireland coming back, Dylan Edwards being hurt, I think we're a little dysfunctional right now. I think this will be a good actual test.
Chiefs Chargers tonight.
Ooh,
I have to pick the
I have
Chiefs.
to pick Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean,
I think they've got something to prove this year.
I do too. I think we're going to be better this year.
All right. We'll talk about this next week.
Bob, I think you and I were 100% with each other. No,
We're all off on one, so somebody's going to be a winner next week.
Oh,
All right. Well, very good. Well, thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us. We hope to see you next week.